العلم أشراف مطلوب وطالبه لله أكرام من يمشي على قدمه. العلم نور مبين يستضيء به أهل السعادات والجهال في الظلم.
Trustworthy person who has got the attributes of a trustworthy person. The trustworthy person is a person who maintains his muru'ah, who maintains his honor. And the muru'ah is a word that changes, or the adl, what we can call a adl, a person who is just, changes from every time frame. At the time of Imam Ahmad rahmatullahi alayhi and the Salaf, the person who doesn't pray witr wasn't considered the person that doesn't pray witr. Half of the ummah won't be adl. If you look at that, use that as a criterion. During the time of the Salaf, a person who walked around without covering his head was considered to be someone who is not adl, not just. In sometime in history, at the time of history of the Muslims, a person who eats outside isn't considered adl, just. And if you get seen if someone sees you in a takeaway shop, you're not adl. This is a sifa, an attribute which changes from time to time. There are certain things that are the norm for us now that weren't necessarily the norm for them. And the opposite, vice versa as well. There's things that were normal for them that are not normal for us. So this is a sifa that changes from time to time. Ala kulli hal, a trustworthy person, a person who's away from fisq and sins and so on. طيب. ويجب تبييت النية للصيام الفرض. وأما النفل فيجوز بالنية من النهار. طيب. Wherever the Sheikh says ويجب تبييت النية, right, number 3. طيب 4. جزاك الله خير. 4. ويجب تبييت النية للصيام الفرض. It is wajib, the Sheikh says it's wajib to have the niyyah beforehand, have the niyyah of the fard tabit, yani before, the night before. So for example, if tomorrow is Ramadan, you have to have the intention tonight or any time before Fajr, before the time of fasting, you must have the intention for fasting the month of Ramadan, or the intention for fasting tomorrow. And the evidence for that is the hadith إنما الأعمال بالنيات. طيب. When a person intends to fast the month of Ramadan, with regards to the intention, do they need to fast, or do they need to have the intention at the beginning of Ramadan, or do they need to renew their intention every single night? Just the beginning. طيب. Any other opinions? Both. Any other opinions? Combining.
To be on the safe side.
خروج من الخلاف. طيب. Some of the scholars, the Malikiyah, say that the beginning is enough. As soon as the month of Ramadan comes in, then you make one intention that you're going to fast the whole month. Then it's enough for you, that intention is enough for you to last the whole month. طيب. Lakin, if you happen to have a legitimate excuse to not fast, such as traveling, and then you obviously when you're fasting if you don't fast, when you're traveling, if you don't fast, when you come back, you're obviously going to have to renew your niyyah. As I said, when we were studying the last 2 kitabs and we were talking about the niyyah is not something that we should dwell too much into. Because naturally, if a person is fasting, more often than not they've intended to fast the month of Ramadan. It's harder for you to not have the intention than to have the intention when the month of Ramadan enters. And every single Muslim as soon as Ramadan comes in, naturally they'll say, or they'll intend to fast the month of Ramadan. The Shaykh says, وَيَجِبُ تَبْيِيتُ نِيَّةِ لِلصِّيَامِ الْفَرْضِ. It's wajib to have the intention for the siyam, which is fard, which is wajib. The Shaykh didn't say لِلصِّيَامِ Ramadan. The reason is because siyam al-fard relates to something which is more general than the siyam of Ramadan only. A person can be fasting an obligatory fast outside the Ramadan, sah? They could be fasting the qada of a day that they missed in Ramadan. They could be fasting kafara, expiation or making up for a day that they missed, or falling into a mahdhur during the month of Ramadan, something which wasn't permissible during the month of Ramadan, and then after they have to do kafara. Or a vow, oh Allah, if you give me this and this, I shall fast 2 days for your sake. So the fasting of the obligatory fast are more general than the fasting of Ramadan. Also, it could be a day that a person made up during Ramadan. طيب. So a person for these siyam that are wajib, he has to have his intention beforehand. طيب. وأما النفل, as for the supererogatory of the fast and the voluntary siyam, فيجوز بنية من النهار. Then it's permissible to have the intention during the day. The evidence for that is the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anhu, in which he entered into his house sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and he said to Aisha, هل عندكم شيء? Have you got any food? And she said, فقلنا لا. They said no. Then the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, فإني إذن صائم. فإني إذن صائم. Then verily I am fasting. The Jumhur take from that, or the majority of the scholars take from that, that it's permissible to start your fast during any part of the day, if it is a sunnah prayer, if it is sunnah fasting. طيب. From what time can a person have his intention? Some scholars say before zawal is permissible. After zawal, then it's not permissible, because your intent, half of the day is gone after zawal. Yani. Lakin, when you're looking at the hadith, it's general. So it's permissible for the person to have his intention even after zawal, even after dhuhr. That's obviously given if a person hasn't eaten or hasn't had anything to drink. Like if a person has breakfast in the morning and then at lunchtime he says, Inni idhan sa'im, then it's not obviously permissible, because they've already fell into something which breaks your fast for that day. So there's a condition that a person doesn't obviously eat before making up the siyam. If a person doesn't have the intention from dhuhr onwards, and they woke up quite late, and from dhuhr they had the intention to start fasting, from when will they be rewarded? Naam, the moment that they intended. إنما الأعمال بالنيات. طيب. By the way, that's the opinion of the Jumhur. That's the opinion of the Jumhur. There are some scholars that say that the fasting of the voluntary fast, the sunnah, is the same as the wajib. Sah? What do you think they can reply back to with regards to this hadith? Is the hadith a refutation upon them or not? فَإِنِّي إِذًا صَائِمٌ. Then I am fasting. Is the hadith a refutation upon them? And can we say to them, listen, the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam in this hadith, he said, فَإِنِّي إِذًا صَائِمٌ, then I am fasting.
Yes, because he didn't have the intention beforehand. So the intention came after the day had already started.
Ahsant. How do you know the intention came after?
Because he mentioned it specifically that if such and such thing happened, then I'll be fasting.
But it's not clear in the hadith. It can mean, verily I'm fasting, mean I was fasting and I'll continue my fast.
Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah, he mentioned it's very clear, because the fa' sababiyya and
إن إذن فالصائم صح. That's why the Jumhur. لكن فعلا, even if you look into it, there isn't, you can't clearly refute them with this hadith. And you can say the fact is not the sababiyya, it's for tartib. مثلا الآن, if I say دخل محمد فعلي, it doesn't necessarily mean that Muhammad entered before Ali. But if I say دخل محمد ثم علي, ثم shows what? ترتيب, صح? على كل حال, the strong opinion, not strong opinion, لكن the qawl of the Jumhur is the fasting which is permissible if you to have your niyyah. And when you look at the Sharia, that is one of the maqasid of Sharia, the objectives of the Sharia, when it comes to the nawafil, making it easier for the Muslims to do. طيب. والمريض الذي يتضرر. Where it says والمريض الذي يتضرر, number 5. The Shaykh started off with what? Giving us the evidence for fasting, sah? And then he started by who, and then he carried on by saying, or mentioning who the fasting is wajib upon, sah? The conditions. Then he carried on by saying, how do we establish the month of Ramadan, sah? So when you get to this point, a person has met the conditions, and the month has been, or the moon has been sighted. What's the next step? That it's wajib upon the Muslim to fast, sah? Intaha. It's wajib upon the Muslim to fast. If he meets these 4 conditions, and he sees the moon, then it's wajib for him to fast. And then obviously the Shaykh mentioned the niyyah. Now the Shaykh is talking about, or is about to talk about, a chapter regarding Ahl al-A'dhar, the people who have excuses, who are excused from fasting. Our Sharia, the Sharia of Islam, is complete. And it is salih لكل زمان ومكان. It is adaptable, it is flexible, you're able to use it in any time frame, in any era, and in any situation. As we shall see, traveling is something that naturally comes to people. You get a phone call and you might have to travel to another part of the world. Life doesn't stop there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared something else for you. فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخْرَى. A person can fall ill. لا بأس. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed for you to fast, break your fast, فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخْرَى, and to make up the fasting that you missed on another day. So it shows the completeness of the Sharia. طيب. والمريض الذي يتضرر بالصوم والمسافر لهما الفطر. The Shaykh now is about to mention several different types of people, and for each one there's a different ruling. He starts off with the person who's ill, the marid, the person who is ill, and then he mentions the person who is traveling. As for the person who's ill, firstly, we have to categorize illness into 2 types. There's an illness whereby a person is expected to get better. For example, a flu, someone has a flu, or someone has a severe headache where they have to take tablets, or they've got a fever. They've got an illness which is an illness, and because of it they can't fast, lakin they're expected to recover within the near future. So for example, if a person has a flu and it's a severe flu, they may miss 2-3 days of Ramadan. Lakin after that they'll recover. That's the first type. The second type is a type which the person isn't expected to recover. a person isn't expected to recover, such as diabetes. If a person has diabetes, more often than not, they've got diabetes for life. And if a person does have diabetes, except especially type 2, I believe, it's difficult for them to fast because they constantly need to eat, or they constantly need to inject themselves with the injection. Likewise, a person who has problems with their kidneys, whose kidneys get washed certain number of times a week. So that sort of person, they're not expected to recover. And it's not the norm that they recover. So the illness is of two types. The type that the Shaykh is referring to now is the type that the person is expected to recover. As for the type that a person isn't expected to recover, we shall see at the end of the chapter. طيب والمريض الذي يتضرر بالصوم, the marid, or the person who is ill, who is harmed by fasting, and if he fasts he finds it difficult to fast and it delays the recovery process, or it increases his illness, له ماء الفطر والصيام. That person has a choice. That's what the Shaykh says. Now we're going to dissect the person who is ill into three. The first type, a person who is not harmed by fasting. So right, illness, number one. Number one, a person who is not harmed by his fasting. For example, if someone has a slight headache, a sore throat, anything mild, and he doesn't need to take any medicine, for that sort of person, it's haram for him to break his fast. Meaning it's wajib upon him to fast. Why? Because it's a mild illness. So not everyone who's ill is allowed to break their fast. That's the first type. The second type is a person who it's difficult for him to fast. It's difficult for them to fast, but they're not harmed by the fasting. Nevertheless, it's difficult for them to fast. They're not harmed by the fasting, like it's difficult for them to fast because they may need to take painkillers, they may need to take antibiotics because they've got an infection. For that sort of person, the sunnah is for him to break his fast and make up that day that he missed after Ramadan. Based on the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرَ وَلَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْعُسْرَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants ease for you and doesn't want hardship for you. And Aisha radiallahu anha, she says that the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam مَا خُيِّرَ بَيْنَ أَمْرَيْنِ إِلَّا أَخَذَ إِيسَرَهُمَا. That the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, if he was presented with two things or two issues, or had two options, he would always take the easier one. So if a person finds it difficult to fast, and he's not harmed by fasting, then it's better for him to break his fast. Because in general, in that sort of condition, a person can't worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala how he wants. If a person is constantly complaining of a migraine headache and he needs to take the tablets, but if he doesn't take the tablets, he's still going to have that banging headache, they can't read Quran, they don't have any khushu' in their salah, they can't make dua, because they're doing a countdown of iftar. They're waiting for iftar, they're doing a countdown. So this person, his intention is not there, his khushu' is not there. Therefore, for that person, it's better for him to break his fast. And it doesn't mean that that person is a mutasahil, or that person doesn't give importance to the ahkam of the sharia. It just means that they are not able to do so. And in general, with these sort of issues, al-mar'u faqihu nafsi, as they say. The person is his own faqih. A person knows what he's able to cope with and what he is able to not cope with, or what he can't cope with. So if you see a person who is ill, and like when you say he's broken his fast, like when you look at him, he looks fine. Don't say to him, ittaqillah ya akhi, why are you breaking your fast? Ittaqillah, it's wajib to fast in the month of Ramadan. How can you say you're ill, you're talking fine, your fast is not broken, you're normal? It's not correct for you to say that. Because the person knows what he can handle and what he can't handle. And the ability of people's ability is different. That's why sometimes you might get a group of people on a journey, one is fasting, the other one isn't fasting. Sah? And the one that isn't fasting finds it more difficult than the one who is fasting. So people's ability are different, or is different. طيب. The third type of person, when regards to the temporary illness, is a person who is being harmed by fasting. He's been harmed by fasting. The more he fasts, the more that his recovery process, the recovery period is delayed. Or a person is, it increases him in his illness by him fasting. So for example, if a person is prescribed with antibiotics and he's got bad infection, and he has to take 4 a day. He has to take 4 a day, and he's given a 7-day course. If he says he's not going to take that tablets during the time of fast, when is he going to naturally take these tablets? After iftar, sah? And before suhoor. That period can be anything from 4 hours to 3 hours to 5 hours, sah? If he wants to take 4 tablets within those 3-4 hours, he's going to have an overdose. He's going to die. That's why he needs to spread it out during the day. And if he doesn't do so, then this infection will spread, and it'll not only delay the recovery procedure, lakin he'll become, or he'll fall more ill. طيب. For that sort of person, it's haram for him to fast. It's wajib for him to break his fast. Due to the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ, and do not throw yourselves into tahluka and destruction. Do not throw yourselves into destruction. So it's haram for a person who's in that condition to fast. Likewise, if a person has diabetes and they need to eat, or they need to take they need to have a sugar intake, and then they say, Yalla khalli, I'm going to fast. By the time it gets to dhuhr, they fainted. What is the benefit of that? He's harmed himself. He hasn't fasted. He hasn't fasted. There is no benefit in it. طيب. There's more harm than benefit. والمفسدة or دفع المفسدة مقدم على جلب المصلحة. Preventing the harm takes precedence or comes before bringing about benefit. So with regards to the person who's ill, then he comes under either one of these categories. And a person is his own sheikh when it comes to that. A person is the one who decides himself. Because even when you're asking a question to a sheikh, the sheikh can only judge according to what you tell him. But your feelings may be very different. The way you feel may be very different. Or maybe there's a person who's standing next to you, nudging you, saying, fear Allah, that doesn't hurt you. It's not, you can fast. And you're expecting, or you're going to be given a fatwa that's not linked to, or that isn't in accordance with the way, or your illness. The next person that the Shaykh mentioned, the first one was what? The person who's ill. And we categorized that into 7 different categories, sah? 3 different categories. صح. The next person is the musafir, the person who is traveling. The person who is traveling is also, or we can also dissect him into 3 categories. The first one is أن يستوي عنده الصيام والفطر. If a person is traveling and they're going from here to another city within England, and it's the same for them, whether they fast or whether they break their fast, it's the same for them. He's not harmed, he won't be bothered, he can perform his ibadah in the correct manner, and he can worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he can read Quran, he's going to have energy. For that sort of person, if it's mustawil, if it's equal, then it's better for him to what? Fast. It's better for him to fast. Firstly, because of the barakah of the time. You're in the month of Ramadan. It has more barakah, you fasting during the month of Ramadan, than to fast outside the month of Ramadan. Also, that is easier for the mukallaf. That is easier for the Muslim. That is easier for him to fast. Why? Because if he sees the people fasting, he has the same suhoor same time as them, and he has iftar same time as them, and he prays with them and so on. Whereas if he makes up a day afterwards, then he's fasting on his own, and he may find it difficult. And imagine you been making up your fast after Ramadan, and you're with a group of people, and they're laughing, drinking, and eating, and so on, and you're starving. It may somewhat be difficult for you. طيب. So that's if it's equal, or if a person is able to handle it and they're able to go through the siyam completely. The second one is if one of them is easier for them. A person is traveling and it's easier for him to fast because he knows he's going to get out of the way. Or it's easier for him to break his fast because he knows he won't have khushu' and he won't be able to do his ibadah correctly and to the fullest. For that sort of person, he does whichever is easier for him. Whichever is easier for him. The evidence can be used, the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anhuma, where the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was, if he was ever given 2 options, he would always take the easier one. Yuridullahu bikum al-yusr as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants ease for you. So, practicing that which is easier for you. طيب. The third type, when it comes to the musafir, the traveller, is if it is difficult for him to fast. He's going on a journey, and it's difficult for him to fast. That sort of person shouldn't fast. If it's difficult for him to fast and he finds it, he can't worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as he's supposed to, then in that case, he shouldn't fast. The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam was on a journey with the companions, and he saw the companions gathered up in a group, in a circle, and he said, "Ma hada? What is that?" And they said, "There's a man who's fallen down on the floor unconscious." And then he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Laysa min al-birri as-siyam fi as-safar." It is not from righteousness to fast while traveling. That is specific to the person who finds it difficult to fast in the month of, or to fast while he is traveling. طيب. So if a person misses Ramadan due to fasting, misses his fasting in Ramadan due to traveling or being ill with a temporary illness, then they have to make up, these 2 people have to make up the days that they've missed after Ramadan. Any time before the next Ramadan. طيب. We'll stop there inshallah. From next week we'll carry on. We've got longer time obviously next week inshallah. So we'll carry on. وَالْحَائِضُ وَالنُّفَسَاءُ يَحْرُمُ عَلَيْهِمُ الصِّيَامُ. There's about 10 minutes left. We'll leave that for question and answers if there are any. If not, then inshallah we'll call it a day. Questions? لا واجب مع العبد صح. صح أحسنت. أحسنت. فقيه الآن ما شاء الله عليك. لا واجب مع العجز. فقيه يعني فقيه is a person ما شاء الله like ابن عثيمين رحمه الله. If a woman Hajj is wajib صح? If a woman doesn't have a mahram, جزاك الله خير. If a woman doesn't have a mahram, Hajj isn't wajib upon her. لا واجب مع العجز. There's no wajib with an excuse if there's a legitimate excuse. And a person cannot fast due to a udhr. There's a legitimate excuse there.
So people go with a group towards Hajj.
What, a group of women? لا ما. It's not permissible for a woman to go with a group of women. They are not maharim for her. They are not mahram for her. A mahram is only a man. They can't be a mahram for her. Nor is it permissible to get in a group and travel. If it was permissible, the Messenger ﷺ could have said that. Where he would have said to the companions, female companions, travel together. Lakin, he made it a condition for them to perform, to wait for a mahram. 1-1, yeah? If a sister wants to do Umrah in Ramadan and fears her menses coming, she takes the tablet that delays the menses so she can pray, etc. and do Umrah. However, the pills must be taken at certain times during the day. Can the sister not fast the 3 days she has to take the medicine? There is no harm that the medicine may bring if it is not taken at the prescribed time. That's a good question. A lot of women ask this question to the scholars. During the time of Ramadan, during the time of Hajj, are women allowed to take tablets which delay their menses? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. They're allowed to take tablets that delay the menses. It says in the question already there is no harm that the medicine may be or may bring about if it is taken out of its prescribed time. Like on the condition that the medicine or the tablet doesn't have side effects. If it has severe side effects, it's not permissible like any other medicine. It's permissible for the sisters, for the women to take tablets that delay their menses during Ramadan or during the time of Hajj. However, the surah or the scenario that is written here is, however, the pills must be taken at certain times during the day. Can the sister not fast the 3 days she has taken? She needs to take the medicine. La. Not during the month of Ramadan. Not during the month of Ramadan. If a sister, can the sister not fast the 3 days she has to take the medicine?
قبل اعتصافه أو في وقت السفر.
How can this happen in general? Because if during the month of Ramadan, if she's fasting, she can take the tablets in the evening and it will delay her menses. She doesn't need to take it in the afternoon. For example, she's traveling, she can fast as normal, or she reaches Mecca, she can fast, and then she can take the tablets in the evening. And with that tablet, it will naturally delay, with the medicine, it will delay the menses. I don't see how she would need to break her fast to take the tablets. But if that is the case, then it wouldn't be permissible. It wouldn't be permissible to break the fast or miss a day of fast just so they can take the medicine or the tablets which delay the menses. Because she's not from Ahlul A'dhar, she's not from the people that can be excused due to missing the Ramadan. Allahu A'lam, if I've misunderstood the question, then the sister can say out loud, ask the question, lakin I don't understand why she would have to miss 3 days of Ramadan, because she can take the medicine in the evening.
To do Umrah, so the question is that she wants to delay
Sahih. To do Umrah, Hajj, we said Hajj, yeah. Hajj, Umrah, Ramadan to fast, adi. You can take the medicine. I just don't see the days how. But it says there is no harm that the medicine may bring if it is not taken at the prescribed time. So it doesn't have a specific time.
Tablets 3 times a day. So there's a harm that comes if it's not taken at the time that the doctor said that
Sah. In that case, go to the doctors before Ramadan and start the medicine, for example, 3 days before Ramadan or 4 days before Ramadan.
But it has to be taken 3 days exactly before the sister's menses are going to start. So if for example the sister's going to Umrah
Sah,
in
sah.
the middle of Ramadan
Mm.
and her menstrual starts on the 15th of Ramadan.
She needs to take, if it starts on the 15th, she needs to take it on the 12th.
Yeah. So can she open the fast on the 12th, 13th and 14th?
Wallahi, Allahu A'lam. I haven't come across anything from the scholars permitting a person in that situation to break his fast. Because if 3 tablets are prescribed, then she can possibly take 2 tablets. She can take 2 tablets. One at iftar and one at suhoor. And if the night is long, then maybe one at midnight. And if she's in Makkah, if she's in Makkah, she can take 3 because 6 p.m. roughly is the iftar time. If she takes one then, if she takes one about 11:30, 12 o'clock, and if she takes one just before suhoor, it's done. Like as for missing the day of Ramadan, in order to do that, Allahu A'lam, that's serious. It's not something that can be taken lightly. 1 second, 1. You know the problem is sisters, mashallah, they put 2-3 questions in one. But their questions are really good. Regarding the hadith of Aisha, when the Prophet ﷺ asked for food and then said, I am fasting, you suggested that he could have already had the intention, but if Sah. Another good question, mashallah. Regarding the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anhu, when the Prophet ﷺ asked for food and then said, I am fasting, when Aisha said, we don't have food, he said, I am fasting. You suggested that he could have already been fasting. Sahih, he could have already been fasting. But if he was already fasting, why would he be asking for food? He was fasting a sunnah fast, and you're able to break your fast in the sunnah. When it comes to fasting sunnah, if you're fasting on a Monday or Thursday, and then midday you get hungry, you can break your fast. When you're fasting, you can break your fast. So the Prophet ﷺ, it's permissible for him, he was fasting a voluntary siyam, so it's permissible for him to break his fast. Can you fast within 2 intentions? Exit fasting because of vow, and fasting because it is sunnah. Can you fast with 2 intentions? Exit fasting because of a vow, and fasting because it is a sunnah. La. If a vow is a ibadah which is wajib, you have to fast, and it's an obligation to fast. Now, if it's wajib to fast, an obligatory fast, you cannot combine it with any other fasting. Just like you can't combine the dhuhr salah with tahiyyatul masjid or the rawatib. So you can't combine the Ramadan, the day of the Ramadan, with another day of Monday, say having the intention for fasting on a Monday or on a Thursday, or the vow as mentioned, or the kafara as mentioned. So it's not permissible to combine.
You said the day of Shak is haram to fast.
Yeah.
The day of Shak falls back on a Monday, where it's
Ahsant, mashallah. If a person used to fast on a Monday and a Thursday, and it's their normal day, normal ritual for them to fast on a Monday or Thursday, then it's permissible for them to fast. Like in what is intended is, if a person says, just in case it's Ramadan tomorrow, I'm going to fast. That is the meaning by فَقَدْ عَصَى أَبَا الْقَاسِمِ, he has disobeyed Al-Qasim. If a woman is fasting and sees menstrual blood just after Maghrib Adhan, does she have to make up this fast? Now, we'll see it in the next lesson, inshallah. If a woman sees the menses blood at Maghrib, just before Maghrib, 10 minutes before Maghrib, 20 minutes before Maghrib, 5 minutes before Maghrib, and the blood actually comes out, then the fast of that day is not included. She gets the reward for what she has fasted. Lakin it's not included as a day of Ramadan. She needs to make up that day after. So if the blood comes out during the time of fasting, then her fast is invalid from that point onwards. Lakin sisters have to be sure that it is menses blood that's coming out. Sometimes there are signs, as you know, there are signs such as getting backache, back pain and so on before the menses comes. that has no relation to the ruling. So if a sister does get back pain and she knows her menses is going to come any minute now, and it's the day of the month that she gets it, and she's got those feelings, she shouldn't pay attention to them. She should carry on with her fast, and she should only break her fast if the blood actually comes out. One second. Any other question? Last question. طيب. Last question from the brothers and last question from the sisters. Last question, gone. Quickly, because the time's run out.
I'm not going to ask her about fasting. Can I ask her something else instead?
لا موضوع the موضوع of the fasting. The موضوع of the top.
It's got to do with prayer anyway. It's not even more important than fasting.
Unless it's to do with Tawheed, Kufr and Islam. Is it to do with Tawheed and Islam?
Yes, the salah. So regarding one of my female family members, they asked me, I read some narration previously about you can combine the Salatul Maghrib and the Salatul Isha. What's the ruling on combining them like in summertime? Because I had some kalam about that is permissible.
When it's permissible, a lot of masajid, what they do is they combine when the time of the salah gets really late.
Yeah.
So the Isha comes in about 10:05, 10:06, whatever, and then they combine Maghrib with Isha. What evidence do they use? فأراد أن لا يحرج أمته. طيب. Other than that hadith, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when in the hadith of Ibn Abbas, it was a one-off. It was something that he did, not even occasionally. On certain occasions. We have one occasion now in the hadith of Ibn Abbas. It's not something that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam did often. And if we say that we're going to pray Maghrib because Isha is too late, if you open up that door, then what's stopping people from saying, at the time of Asr I'm going to be working, so I'm going to combine Asr with Dhuhr? What's stopping that? If you take it as the norm on an everyday basis. There are some mashayikh that have given a fatwa, but I haven't seen what they've based their fatwa on. Allahu A'lam. I asked the brother to send me what it is their fatwa as it is and what they base their fatwa on. Lakin he hasn't sent it to me. Allahu A'lam.
They also bring fatwa from Bin Baz, no.
It's not permissible.
As long as you can tell the difference between Maghrib and Isha,
Sahih.
you have to pray this time.
Exactly. You have to. وش معنى إن الصلاة كان على المؤمنين كتاب موقوتا? وش الفائدة? What's the benefit of saying the salah has been prescribed at different times if we're able to combine according to how we want? طيب, yeah, it's difficult for the people. Welcome to ibadah. That's ibadah. We're going to say Hajj is expensive, so won't go Hajj now. We'll go in about 15-20 years if the prices come down. Now, if a person, for example, comes from a journey, they've been traveling, and they come and they're shattered and they're really tired, and they know that even if they stay awake for the time of Isha, they'll be falling down and they won't know what they're saying. If a person is in that situation, ahlan wa sahlan, for him to combine Isha and Maghrib in that sort of situation, la haraj, as the hadith of Ibn Abbas says. But to do it every single day, go on, Dave, last question online, go on. What is it?
What are the limits of a husband and wife relationship during fasting?
We'll get to that inshallah in the next lesson. We'll get to that. There's tafsil, when it's permissible, when it's not permissible, who is wajib to get on, if one is forced and the other one isn't forced, and so on. So inshallah we'll see that in the next lesson. Yusuf, go on. Sadaqah.
Just opinion. Those masajid where they combine the Maghrib and the Isha, because it's in summer, I generally find what they do, they combine Maghrib and the Isha in Sha'ban and in Shawwal. In Ramadan, even though it's the next day, they pray Isha.
That's a refutation of them, sah? What's the difference? Today we're going to pray early, tomorrow we're not going to pray early. What's the difference? If that's the case, in reality they should have put the time of Isha back as well, because It's even worse, it's even harder in the month of Ramadan. Because in Sha'ban and in the other months of the summer, the person's going to pray Isha and then what? Go back home, sah? But in Ramadan, the person stays for Isha, stays for Taraweeh, there's probably a sermon between the Taraweeh. That's even harder. So if we were going to use that qa'idah, then it's more befitting that they also delayed the month of Ramadan, يعني delayed the Isha for the month of Ramadan, using aql, qiyas. Wallahu a'lam, wa billahi tawfiq. Inshallah we'll carry on next week. By the way, these questions I'm going to answer them next week, inshallah, and any other questions. As for the exam, Allah qadar Allah, I have time to do it. On the month, inshallah. And the sisters, there was a question last week. There was a question, the hadith of Ibn Jud'an, which Aisha said to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he used to do a lot of good deeds in Jahiliyyah, but he died from that. And then there was another companion. There was a companion who came to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said he used to do good deeds before he embraced Islam. And he said, فَلَكَ مَا أَسْلَفْتَ مِنَ الْخَيْرِ أو فَلَكَ الْخَيْرِ الَّذِي أَسْلَفْتَ أو كذا أو كما قال. There was a sister that asked a question